That's right, it's the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, another episode 4 of the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues. My name is Ryan Fortune, and I'm your host for this 4th episode and also for the previous 3. We've spoken so far about climate change. We've spoken about the state of higher learning in South Africa over these 4 weeks. Our first episode was actually a look at mental health awareness, this being October Mental Health Awareness Month in South Africa. And so we're ending off the month as well with another look at mental health awareness in South Africa, because it's the month that we need to focus on that. But this time in the studio, we have with us a very different panel to the one we had before. And so I feel slightly intimidated because the ladies in front of me are all qualified psychologists. They deal with these issues on a daily basis in their work. They teach other people how to deal with these issues in communities. And so without feeling too overwhelmed, I'm going to introduce them. In the studio right in front of me, I have Geraldine Franciscus, who is the head of psychology at Cornerstone Institute in Cape Town. She's been there for quite some time. I think she may have been there since the beginning, is it? No.
20 years.
20 years. I think, Geraldine, just come a little bit forward and speak into the mic. So Geraldine, in front of me, she's going to be helping me, I guess, in this conversation to steer the conversation. To my right, we have Hebokazi Mtati.
Yes.
Hebokazi Mtati. And Hebokazi is a clinical psychologist, a former ballroom dancer, but we won't talk about that. But she's here. She's going to talk to us about, give us some insight into some of the things that we can do when we face a mental health crisis. She's going to be talking about some of the coping mechanisms. And hopefully we can also get to talk about some of the studies that she's done into child readiness or readiness for school, some of the issues she's researched. And to my left, we have Dr. Odette Geldenes, who is sitting to my left. Above, let me just see that you're not blocked entirely by my computer screen. And so Odette is a psychology lecturer at Cornerstone Institute, and she's also going to be talking to us, being part of this conversation. I think maybe just to start off with, we'll start off in a sort of very relaxed way to get into the conversation. Maybe, Geraldine, tell me about your role at Cornerstone, what that entails, some background about yourself, and then we'll get into the meat of the interview.
So I started at Cornerstone in 2001 as a lecturer after having completed my master's in counseling psychology. And over the years, I've lectured practically all the subjects there. I've been involved in developing student services at Cornerstone Institute as well. And I just love working with students and seeing them develop, seeing the development as they come in and as they go out, and how they actually make a difference and impact on lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I predominantly teach the psychopathology modules at Cornerstone, and that's really looking at psychological disorders as well, and equipping our students. We have B-Psych equivalent students, and they go out and do counseling in community settings. So that's a big part of my role. Then I have a team of about 12 lecturers, very awesome lecturers, I must say, who really are so eager to impact students' lives and just to see them flourish.
Mm-hmm.
So at Cornerstone, we're not just interested in your academics, we're also interested in seeing you develop personally. So we're interested in the holistic person, and that's how we run our psychology department. Mm-hmm. We teach in a very interactive way. We don't just lecture, it's engagement with students, it's students doing presentations. We also do lots of practical activities, so we go out to sites. So in my module, usually before lockdown, we'd actually visit a psychiatric hospital. So many students want to be clinical psychologists, but they're not always sure what that entails. So we give them real life experiences of what it would be like to be a psychologist. So that's the way we engage with our students.
Mm-hmm. How many students would you say in your career at Cornerstone have you helped along the way? Have you seen through the doors of Cornerstone? If you were to put a number to it.
I would hope to say that it was at least 1,000 students
Okay.
over the time. And many of them have gone on to do even greater things than many of us at Cornerstone. So even Sibukazi here in the studio used to be a Cornerstone honors student. She's now a clinical psychologist, and we're so proud of the many accomplishments of our students. Students are running NGOs. Hope House Counseling Center is run by Mandy Danoon as the manager, and she was a Cornerstone student as well. So it's just great to see them going out and actually making a real difference.
So that's the sort of impact that Cornerstone has had in our communities over the past 20 years. So it's huge, I would guess. I wanted to talk to Hebukazi. I'm going to struggle with your name a bit because it's. I'll get it after.
You're doing well.
Thank you. So, tell me a bit about your work as a clinical psychologist. Does that mean you're going out into communities, you're dealing with people face to face and their issues? How does that work? What would be a typical day, for example, in your life?
Okay. So currently I work at Khayelitsha District Hospital. I'm also overseeing 2 clinics in the Khayelitsha area. I work face-to-face with patients. We also have some patients that we see via Zoom online, depending on, how vulnerable they are in terms of, COVID-19. So my day-to-day, it's suicide attempts for me. That's what I deal with on a daily basis without a fail, especially when I'm at the hospital. But at the smaller clinics, what I see most of the time is trauma. It's trauma after trauma. So I do, individual therapy with these patients. We do grief therapy. We do play therapy even with the kids, and theraplay with the parent and the child if there's an attachment problem. So we try to, see the whole family sometimes, just to make sure that those who are affected, because mental health or a mental illness doesn't just affect the person, it affects the community, it affects the people living in that household. So we have to sort of psychoeducate the families around those issues. So that's what I deal with on a daily basis. It's usually a full day for me. I see back-to-back patients with a short break. But yeah, that's what I do.
It sounds pretty intense. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how that would be. So how do you, as someone dealing with those kind of issues, how do you deal with them yourself? Because I remember I used to work at Doctors Without Borders before, and I remember spending a week in a refugee camp that had just sprung up overnight, and I was talking I was collecting stories of people, telling us about their recent experience of xenophobia and all of that. And I remember by the end of that week, I was completely drained. I was, how do you deal with that? I mean, just listening, because you get some kind of secondary kind of trauma just listening to people's stories. How does one deal with that in your role?
There's a paper by Louise Frankel that says you get used to it. However, as psychologists, you just don't get used to it. I think when doctors work with patients, they work with a certain part of that patient's body. We work with emotions. We work with what the person brings. So we have to provide that containment and a holding environment for them, and to show that what they bring is not too much that we're going to break down. So sometimes you have to sit through the hardest emotions and emotional content that comes from this patient, but you kind of have to hold it and contain them. But how I deal with it, I know, so I used to do ballroom dancing, but I don't do it competitively anymore. But my husband and I will just dance. I think laughing is just very important. I'm also in my own therapy where I'm able to debrief about what has come through, because some of these issues that we face, or some of these issues that our patients bring, can sort of trigger our own stuff from the past, or things that are currently happening around us. I mean, with COVID-19, there's been so many losses. I've had my own. So when a patient comes and they've lost someone, it kind of triggers my own losses as well. But that's why there's supervision, and that's why there's also, your own personal therapy. I also go to gym just to get that stress out of my body, and that helps me a lot.
Thank you, Ebukazi. We'll come back and maybe talk a bit more about that a bit later. I want to turn to Odette Geldenes, Dr. Odette Geldenes. And get a sort of a sense of how did you and why did you choose this particular career path in your life? What was the sort of, I want to get a sense of that perhaps before we get into the other detail.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I think this path actually chose me. I remember when I started out, like, what are you going to study? And I wanted to be a lawyer or something. And I remember in high school, I always wanted to help people, but that's just part of me. That's part of myself. And then I fell in love with this thing called psychology. I think this is because you said so beautifully. This vulnerability that people give to you that you can actually be part of in that therapeutic relationship. This is such a gift that and it gives me such an adrenaline rush that people in that space, that when you see a client or you see a patient that's completely vulnerable in front of you and you are part of that space. I fell in love with that. I fell in love that I can be with people there. I can help them on their path with healing, and I can really make a change, not me, but in the therapeutic relationship, that co-partnership. So starting out, I just wanted to study something. Then I actually fell in love with psychology, and I've never looked back. Although it's really difficult sometimes on the road, and it's because you said, yes, it's really difficult to bracket your emotions, and you do get triggered, and you do, but I think at my past 17 years of doing this, I think I had this aha moment of this vulnerability that my patients or even my students bring to the foreground. And I think I feel so honored and blessed to be part of that. So yes, that's how I fell in love.
Fantastic. Yes, so listeners, you're at home now listening to the 4th episode of the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, and it's me, Ryan Fortune, your host this evening. We're talking about mental health awareness. Mental health, I think not necessarily awareness, but I think mental health in general, and this topic, which I think for a lot of people is often something that you don't really want to be associated with. There's often a lot of stigma attached to having mental health problems. I mean, not problems, but like some issue that you need to deal with, some healing or trauma that's gone on in your life that you need to resolve in some way. I mean, I remember reaching some kind of personal crisis in my life, and at some point deciding that I needed to go and understand why I was behaving in a certain way. And I sat with a psychiatrist for about a year in weekly sessions, and it was one of those things where all they did was really just listen to me for an hour every once a week, and at the end of it, asked me a couple of questions here and there, and at the end of it, I didn't see the point, but I kind of committed to this year, and I was there every day, religious, every week, and I realized that at the end of that, I hadn't learned anything about myself. I was just there, sort of spilling my guts, basically, and so I kind of developed a kind of skepticism, I would guess, about it. But so what is it? I mean, when you say, is that what mental health treatment is all about? You're sitting in and sort of on a couch. Is that how it works? But what is it really, Geraldine? I'm going to throw that at you.
I think there's so many different aspects to treatment, specifically when you're looking at mental health. Some people need to learn new skills. Some people need to understand why the past triggers them and also cope with the traumas. Lots of people just internalize the traumas and never deal with the issues. And it always resurfaces in ways at the times when they're stressed or when they really need to be able to cope. And so therapy is a collaborative way of actually working with someone to help them understand themselves better, so that they can think, feel, and behave in ways that would actually enhance their life. So yes, some of it is about sitting on a couch and venting. It's a space where you can feel safe and contained. But some of it is also about developing new skills, new habits, understanding why your relationships seem to go in the same cycles over and over again, and actually changing that.
Mm.
So the therapeutic space is there to give you that opportunity to actually learn new ways of coping, new ways of dealing things, creating new patterns. And also, your brain is a very important part of it. A lot of people think it's just about spilling your guts and your emotions, but your brain is wired in a particular way. You send messages to your brain all the time. There's automatic thoughts about yourself, your self-esteem, your worth. And so part of therapy is also changing some of that and challenging if those thoughts are faulty and is distorted and it's leading you to not live a fuller life, the life that you should be living. So therapy is about psychoeducation, it's about treatment, it's about, yes, having that space to just vent and open up and share your thoughts. But ultimately, it's also about you making decisions and choices. So you can benefit from therapy, or it can just be a space where you feel like I've just wasted my time. But a lot of it's also about you.
What you want to get out of the experience, what you feel, what you choose to get out of the experience, I would guess. Yeah, so I want to also talk about, we've obviously been through, I guess, as an entire planet, a very strange and unusual 2 years now, going on almost 2 years, which people have said there's been an increase in people facing mental health issues because we've been suddenly confined in with other people we may or may not like, we may or may not know properly, and so it's really forced us to deal with some of the issues, and people maybe haven't had the tools to do that. So in the case of you, Hebukazi, how long have you been working in Khayelitsha, and have you seen a change in the last 2 years? I don't want to assume, but I'll ask.
So I've only been there for a year.
Oh, I see. So when you I mean, do you think that the COVID pandemic and the isolation has really had an impact on people in places like that? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So most definitely. I mean, we as individuals exist within a context. We were raised to be social beings. Even just getting that hug from a person is not something we can easily do nowadays, and we had to kind of adjust to that. And there's people who lived on hugs. It may sound small, but there are people who took a lot of strength from that. But what we've seen is that there were more relapses. So there's many different types of mental illnesses. You have, schizophrenia, you've got bipolar, major depressive disorder, which is known by many. There's anxiety disorders. And because of the lockdown, so many people couldn't have access to some of their medication. There were long lines, or you had to make, appointments were kind of impossible to make. So some people had relapsed, especially people with schizophrenia and bipolar, which you will find in the psychiatric wards. And, managing that is quite challenging, especially when some wards were changed or turned into COVID wards, where we could not place these people. So when lockdown happened, I was working at Grooteskier. So this is where I saw a lot of what I'm talking about right now. But in the context of, a community like Khayelitsha, it's been very, very difficult for people because of the social isolation, like I said. And, not being able to have that conversation with another person about what you're going through. Therefore, meaning you can't seek help because you don't know where to go. So I've seen quite a bit of that.
Tell me, in a context like, I mean, we live in South Africa, and obviously there are issues around access to quality mental health services. In a context like that, what is the availability of services? If someone is going through a crisis, what would be the first step? Is it their family that calls a clinic and people come and fetch them, or they have to? How does it work?
So there's different scenarios. I'll give you maybe 3. So if you are feeling suicidal, you need to go to the emergency section of the hospital, or to your local clinic, and that means there will be an admission, right? That's suicidal ideation with intent or a plan, because we need to make sure that we contain that patient. So seek help immediately. So just go to your local health clinic or to the hospital, the emergency side of the hospital. And then second scenario is if, for example, someone has relapsed, someone maybe who was diagnosed with schizophrenia and the psychotic features and there's this kind of like behavior that is out of the ordinary and the family cannot handle that, then the family just needs to contact the nearest clinic or the nearest hospital. They can always contact the police station to escort that patient to the hospital if they're fighting it. And another route is that if you are feeling, depressed, which is your mood has been low for at least for the past 2 weeks, you're feeling like you don't want to do the things that you used to enjoy doing, your concentration is poor, you can't sleep, you can't eat, there's feelings of worthlessness, which usually turn into a suicidal behavior, then you kind of need to go over to your nearest CHC, so you need to go to the mental health unit of the local clinic and speak to a psychiatric nurse who will do the assessment, and then she'll refer to either psychiatry and psychology or either or.
Okay. Talking mental health awareness in South Africa on the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues. Later on, we're going to be joined by a young lady named Skylar Kalamdin, who is the Eon Group Teen Idol 2021 finalist. She's a young singer, 18 years old. She has an amazing voice. She's going to be joining us in the studio and talking about how her music has been influenced by her journey and some of the issues she's had to face. And we also are going to be playing one of her songs and then discussing some of the issues that she's had to face. Right now, we're taking an ad break, and we will be back after the break. For those of you out there feeling that you missed your chance at getting a higher education, there's still time. Make 2022 your year and grab the chance. Whether you're after a degree or a higher certificate, Cornerstone Institute offers an extensive range of programs from psychology and business to community development and education. With so many options, your future couldn't be brighter. Applications are now open, so visit cornerstone.ac.za today to enroll. Your future starts at Cornerstone.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bush Radio 89.5 FM.
Yeah, that's Bush Radio 89.5 FM, and you're listening to the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, a weekly series of discussions that we have. We take a deep dive every week into a particular topic with a panel of guests and look at it from every possible angle. This evening, we're talking mental health, it being Mental Health Awareness Month in South Africa. And maybe just to put a bit of a lighter spin on things, I'm going to play a song, which I think, as always, it's a song that really has, everyone will know the song when I play it, but it's a song that talks about being crazy, but in a way that is, in a good way. You know, we sometimes have to go slightly crazy to endure some of the pressures of modern life. So enjoy the song, everyone.
Surprise the face, talks about the people going under. Only child. A man decides after 70 years that what he goes there for is to unlock the door. While those around him criticize and sleep. Through a fractal on a breaking wall, I see you, my friend, and touch your face again. Miracles will happen as we dream. But we're never gonna survive. Oh. want to fly. Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy? Oh, but we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. No, we're never gonna survive unless we are a little. But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. No, we're never gonna survive unless we are a little crazy. No, never survive unless we get a little
Bush Radio. 89.5 FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, and the song that you just heard by Seal, Crazy, about how we sometimes have to lose our minds in order to cope with some of the insanity of the world, I guess, sometimes. Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. Am I wrong in that, Geraldine?
No, I don't think that you're wrong. 1 in 3 people either experience mental health disorders or will experience a mental health difficulty in their lifetime. So sometimes it must feel like we're all going a bit crazy. And also due to COVID-19, we've seen an increase in mental health disorders. Depression and anxiety are 2 of the most common mental health challenges that we as South Africans experience, along with substance abuse and also exposure to trauma. Grief and complicated grief has increased in the experience of the pandemic, particularly in the way that we lose our loved ones and actually have, looking at our normal ways that we would deal with it and deal with grief, that's not there anymore. We don't get to say goodbye like we did before. So people have become more isolated as well due to lockdown and the social restrictions and distancing. Financial pressures, unemployment, all of those things have played a big role in the way that mental health is impacted.
Tell me, in this day and age, what would be, if you are experiencing some kind of problem, what would be your first step to do? Who do you call basically in a situation when you can't deal anymore?
I think it's good if you can actually just tell someone who you're close to as a first step so that you don't feel so alone. But then there are several helplines that you can call as well. SADAC, South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and a number of other helplines is there to support people in the first stages of when they're just discovering they're not coping anymore. Call a friend, go to your GP if you see that it's impacting your health as well. But firstly, acknowledge to yourself that you're not coping. A lot of people are also not aware that they're struggling with something. They think that they should just get over something. But if it's gone on too long and you realize that things have really changed, you're not doing the same things that you used to do, you're struggling to sleep, you're just filled with anxiety and you can't stop your racing thoughts. First, acknowledge it to yourself, then find someone, a friend, a family member, someone you can trust. And then if you need to go to your GP, go to your clinic, join a support group as well. There's lots of support groups around Cape Town. There's online counseling options available. So there's several options open to you.
Thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine is the head of psychology at Cornerstone Institute, which is the sponsor and partner collaborator in this series of talks that we're doing, of which I'm the host. Cornerstone Critical Dialogues is what you're listening to. If you would like to send a message to us or ask a question, there's a WhatsApp line that you can call. The number is 061 862 1065. 061 862 1065. Send us a WhatsApp message. You can have your question or your comment read on air by myself. Then we also are broadcasting live on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. If you are on any of those platforms, go to the Cornerstone page and also the YouTube channel for Cornerstone Institute. You'll find us live. You'll be able to see into the studio. And if you are, you will see that we are joined by a new person, Skylar Kamaldin from Athlone. She's a young person who has grown up in Cape Town, in the Athlone area. She is also a very talented singer. She was the Eon Group Teen Idol finalist 2021. Skylar, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me a bit about this this contest, the Eon Group Teen Idol finalist? How did that come about?
So I first saw a flyer about it on Facebook, and I thought, let's just try it. But I also thought I might not do it because I'm in matric and I don't want to. I didn't want to. Sorry, I'm extremely nervous. It's my first time on radio.
Don't worry, yeah.
I didn't want to complicate things. And actually, before the lockdown happened in this year, I forgot about it, and then I did not even get a notification. My school contacted my father saying that I made it into the competition, and from there, it's been really helpful in growing my confidence and things. So performing there has been extremely fun, and my finals will be on the 18th of December.
Your final exams?
No, the final performance.
Oh, the final. Oh, it's still going. It's still going on. Okay, so I see what happened. So you did a sort of a first round, and you've made it into the finals. Is that what it is?
There's been a few rounds.
A few rounds. I see. How many finalists are there?
There are 10.
Okay, amazing. And so you one of the 10.
Yes.
And tell me something. So you have a particular talent, right? Clearly, I've listened to some of the songs. And you are a singer right now, yes? Well, besides being in matric. When did you realize that or people around you realized that you had something special, you had a gift?
So music's been in my life since I was extremely young. My mother's a singer. My father's a singer and a producer. So I never really took to music well until the age of like 12, 13. And then it became my passion because of experiencing bullying and things like that. It just became an escape, a way to cope with it. Like when I was writing music or when I was performing or singing, it was like only my opinion mattered and nobody else was around. So music became the thing.
So you write your own songs as well?
I write my own songs, but I haven't released any of my own songs.
Okay.
My own written.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to ask you to do something. If you're too nervous to do it, you can say, and then we'll move on. But I listened to some of the songs, and I mean, I think you have. I know obviously there's studio and music production that happens in the studio, but it seems to me that you have a very strong and unique voice. So I'm going to ask you maybe to sing a cappella, just a few lines, just so that the listeners at home can get a sense of your talent without all the post production that happens in the studio. Would you mind?
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna say, listen. So you're listening to the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, and right now we have in the studio 18-year-old Skylar Kamaldin, who is about to write a matric soon, or in the middle of. No,
I wrote today.
Okay, good luck with your matric. But she's also a very talented singer and has used using her music to deal with some of the issues she's faced around bullying at school. So, what are you going to do for us now, Skylar? You going to sing?
Yeah.
Okay.
A song called.
Don't sing the whole
Okay.
song. Just a
No.
feeling.
I won't.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Summer nights, drinking wine by the fire, catching up. No, 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 no. You're looking good. Wish I could tell you I was over us. But I get high every night when I'm all alone. 'Cause it helps me forget that I'm feeling low. Told you I was doing fine. It's a lie. You should know.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness! I just had like the hair on my arms. That's beautiful. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So you've been singing for how long? Since you
For
were
about 5-6 years.
5-6 years. Okay. And someone sent me a song that you did when you sounded like you were
I
about
was 12.
12 years old, but you've had this voice since then already.
Yeah.
Weren't your parents? Weren't they like?
My father produced the song,
see.
so
Okay.
we.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Guys. So that's Skylar Kalamdin in the studio. I'm a bit. Yeah. Wow. That was amazing. Can you tell me, Skylar, about your experience? You were talking about having been bullied at school. What happened there, and how was music an outlet for you?
From the age of like 10, 11, I had epilepsy, so I had seizures, and obviously children don't really understand what's going on, so they would always bully me about that, make fun of that. Then I went on medication, picked up weight, then it would be appearance problems and weight, and all of those played a role in me feeling imperfect, basically. And when I would sing, it would be like normally I would hide away. Every time I'd go outside, I'd want to look perfect, try and sound perfect, try and do everything right. But when I would perform, when I'd sing, when I'd write music, it's like I'm the perfect me. I'm only me. I'm the best me that I can be at the moment So music has been my way of expressing myself.
Fantastic, awesome. Are some of those kids that bullied you, are they still around? Or do you still see some of them?
Yes.
And what do they say now?
Now, like, there's a few of them that they will still have their say, but for me, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
And then there's the few that now change their outlook on me when they see I'm performing or something, and they congratulate me and things like that. So.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Amazing. Skylar Kalamdin, guys, listeners at home, a young, talented singer. She's in the Eon Group Teen Idols contest. Final performance on the 18th of December, you said.
Yes.
Where's that going to be?
At the Eon Group.
At the Eon Group in Josephstone, and people can buy tickets. They can attend. They can come there and see you perform, and the rest of the finalists. I'm going to play a song that you sent us, called the one you mentioned, I guess, called "Imperfect," and that I think will also blow people away. I listened to it this afternoon on my phone, and I was like, wow, this is something else. So let's listen to "Imperfect" by Skylar Kalamdin, a year of firsts for her. She's in matric, and I guess life is about to change. Today is the first time you're on the radio. I think we're honored. We'll remember this when you go to Hollywood.
imperfections I recall, they don't faze me anymore. Picking my heart up off the floor, and I'm stronger than before. My only mission is to make it. Now I know how to make it on my own, so I don't need nobody. I don't need nobody. You knock me down, but I will get up again. Through all the doubts, I'm still on top of it. You down my name, I don't give a damn. Even if I may be imperfect, I'm a perfect me. They call me names, mocking me. It all comes down to jealousy. I don't see the need to explain myself. I'ma let my story do the talking, so I don't need nobody. I don't need nobody. You knock me down, but I will get up again. Through all the doubts, I'm still on top of it. You down my name, I don't give a damn. Even if I may be imperfect, I'm a perfect me. I don't need nobody to stand alone. I'll do it all on my own. You knock me down, but I will get up again. Through all the doubts, I'm still on top of it. You down my name, I don't give a damn. Even if I may be imperfect, I'm a perfect me.
Bush Radio 89.5.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Skylar Kalamdin that you just heard there singing a song called Imperfect. And I think we at Bush Radio and on the show in particular are very honored because that is the first time that song is played on radio ever. Another of her songs that I think we might play later is I just played earlier this week on another radio station, and it was also Skylar's first time in a radio studio. So we're going to be talking to her again a bit later, a bit more about her dreams and ambitions for the future post-matric, what her plans are. But we are here in the studio talking about mental health, it being Mental Health Awareness Month in South Africa. Is this a worldwide thing, or is it just in South Africa, Geraldine?
So different countries celebrate Mental Health Month different times, but there is World Mental Health Day, the 10th of October.
Okay, and tell me, I mean, I grew up in a time. I don't want to tell you exactly when, but no, I will. But I mean, I grew up in the 70s. I was born in the 1970s, in the early 70s, and so I come from a time when the issue of mental health there was a huge stigma attached to it. You know, you'd always, I mean, the only awareness that you really had was of the crazy person walking down the street, or, you know, who lived, I mean, in my grandmother's garden, there was a guy who lived there for many years. He just slept in the garden, but he clearly had mental health issues, but he was this guy that my grandmother sort of adopted. He was this feature of my childhood, and he was, you know, this sort of crazy guy who didn't really speak, but he lived there I grew up in that time when if you had an issue, a mental health issue, you were either crazy, or there was certain derogatory words that were used to label you. Has this changed at all in recent years, or do you find it changing? Is it changing fast enough where there's a greater acceptance and less stigma of these issues?
I think stigma is still a very huge issue. A couple of years ago, we visited a psychiatric hospital with the students, and we were told there by the occupational therapist that people would often say, once they've been at a psychiatric hospital, they said in order to go back to the community, they would rather say that they were in prison than actually say they were at a psychiatric facility because they'd be more accepted. So I think months like this, where awareness is really created in psychoeducation, makes a big difference, but we still have quite a long way to go where mental health is concerned, and just accepting. And a lot of the times the stigma is around not knowing what to expect or being afraid. So it's a lack of understanding and education often. So there's been improvements, but it's still quite slow. Stigma is still quite a big thing. And also just people coming to terms with it themselves as well, because of the movies and popular media that portrays mental health sometimes in a negative way. Fortunately, more programs are portraying mental health in a better light these days than in the past. Before, you had movies like The Cuckoo's Nest and Hannibal Lecter, and that was the kind of movies that portrayed mental health. And so most people with mental health conditions are not dangerous, and people have the sense that people with mental health conditions, especially if they have serious mental health conditions, is often dangerous, and that's really just not the case. Often we endanger people with mental health conditions because we don't manage or treat them appropriately.
Yeah, so slight changes, things changing, but not fast enough. There was a question I wanted to ask about the relation between. There's your sort of individual mental sort of stability, I would guess, but then there's also the factor of the context in which you live, which can either make things worse, or and I guess that has to do with the relationships that you're in. And I know that you, Odette, have studied the question of relational well-being. Can you tell us a bit about that? What does it actually mean, and how does one sort of
I think, like Spikosis said, we're not made to be alone. Definitely not. And when I did my PhD, my research in a very, very lovely community, and I think what made me so aware of that the well-being we usually see is constructs. Like I want to be married and have 2.4 children and the dog and the picket fence and certain constructs in life, then it sounds wonderful. And when people don't get that, what is my well-being then? And when I worked in this, my research was about well-being in a high-risk community, and the resilience of these people, the well-being that I saw was, even although they didn't have certain things in life, why could I label them as their well-being not being? What is the box that I put them in? And I think the whole thing about what made me did the research with the relational is that what helped them when they have difficult times, the community came together. When they have struggles at home, the community came together. I think the well-being that I always thought that I needed to be, okay, my mental health, I need to check that little box. I never touched. I think I knew it was a holistic approach, but that community really made me realize the relational well-being is actually the glue that keeps us together. Because when I have a problem, I'm going to go to my neighbor. That community showed me that. I think Geraldine said it perfectly. The stigma is still there about what is mental health, or can I go stand with someone and are going to judge me? And what I felt so amazed that they invited me and showed me that although I don't have X, Y, and Z, the relational well-being is so much richer and so much stronger that it actually made me look at 360 in my life. And I worked on my relationships 10 times more. I think it was important for me to understand that, yes, the quality and the vulnerability and just being me. I think in our profession, sometimes we don't show a lot of ourselves. We're like very professional. We keep, we don't want to counter-transference. And then when I met this community or worked with them, I really let a bit of guard down just to build on becoming aware that that's actually in tough times when we're helping. I think relational well-being really made me, again, fell in love with our occupation.
Geraldine, I want to talk a bit about, being a student, since Cornerstone is an institute of higher learning. I think being a student anyway is quite a stressful experience for anyone, if you're under pressure of exams and deadlines and all of this kind of thing. What kind of services are there available for students, particularly and maybe at Cornerstone, where they need to seek help in that sort of context?
So at Cornerstone, we have a student service, a student development and counselling services is offered at Cornerstone under the direction of Beverly Dankers, who's also currently a student studying to further knowledge. So she's a BPsych equivalent student, and several of our students who've studied counselling also come back to Cornerstone, and they offer services to students. So psychoeducational workshops, stress management, time management, and also if they're just struggling with something like depression or anxiety, these services available for them.
In schools, I read a frightening statistic a while back, which had to do with the lack of, social workers in schools, or the number of social workers at South African schools seemed to be, I think there was something like one psychologist for about 10,000, some crazy figure like that. Just the fact that in a context where actually you need people who are able to deal with family issues and that sort of thing, there's such a lack. Are a lot of social workers also psychologists, or is there a school psychologist that's someone different? What is the sort of prevalence of psychologists at schools in South Africa?
I think you were correct when you said the number is alarming, one psychologist to so many schools. And so we are so proud that we, with our practicum students, our BPsych equivalent students, many of them are placed in schools. So registered counsellor is another category other than a psychologist who also play quite a big role in schools. So there's educational psychologists that work in school, registered counsellors, social workers. It's different to a psychologist. Some of the social workers are also trained clinically. So some of them do counselling, some of them do more placement and look at the home circumstances and environment and make a difference there where learners need to be placed or removed from homes. But there are social workers who also counsel.
Thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine is the head of psychology at the Cornerstone Institute in Cape Town. If you are listening at home and you want to make a comment or send a question, you can send it to the number. Where's the number? It is 061-862-1065. You can also join us if you are at home next to your laptop and you are bored with Netflix. You can look at the Facebook page or the YouTube live channel of Cornerstone Institute and join us instead of the latest blockbuster on Netflix. My name is Ryan Fortune. I'm your host, and this is the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues on Bush Radio 89.5 FM.
Learn to change the world.
By enrolling at Cornerstone Institute, you are choosing to join a learning community to change the world. We offer degrees, short courses, and certificates. Go to cornerstone.ac.za or visit our campus to enroll. Change begins here.
Learn to change the world.
Cornerstone is registered with the Department of Higher Education and Training as a private not-for-profit.
Is it your dream to go to varsity? Cornerstone Institute can help you. Accredited high certificates and degrees, online or on campus, part-time or full-time, psychology, community development, education, theology, and business. Visit our website, cornerstone.ac.za. Small classes, financial aid for those who need it, limited places. Act now. Email us at info@cornerstone.ac.za. Call us on 021 448 0050. Cornerstone, where you learn to change the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bush Radio 89.5 FM.
That is Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cornerstone Critical Dialogues on Bush Radio 89.5. We're talking all things mental health awareness in your communities, in your homes, and also the stigma we spoke about earlier on, the still prevalent stigma around issues of mental health that we need to deal with, and especially in this time of COVID and isolation, pandemic, fear, grief, all of these issues that this pandemic has brought to the fore. And we have seen a rise in incidences of mental health crisis moments in people's lives. And so as we navigate this strange time, these things will continue to appear to be prevalent in our communities, maybe to an even greater extent, especially as the economy suffers, people lose their jobs, people lose there's lots of loss that has happened over the past year in so many different ways. We've lost I sometimes go out these days and people don't even know how to shake hands, or, there's no hugging is allowed. There's no, and it's all a bit weird and awkward, and we're not getting, I guess, the fullness of life that we've become, we used to be accustomed to before. We can't go to funerals or big gatherings. And so it's all of these factors that are really just making things slightly more stressful, slightly more anxiety inducing. And maybe we need help. We need to reach out to people when things get a bit too much. And it's okay to do that. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be in need of some kind of assistance. It's not, there's nothing shameful about it, because we all sometimes go through these moments in our lives. Life is not perfect. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that we know that it's not a bad thing. And if you are having an issue or a crisis moment, there are numbers to call. There are people to speak to that are ready there to help you navigate whatever it is that you are going through. I want to talk to you guys now. In the studio with me, Dr. Geraldine, Geraldine Franciscus, Dr. Odette Geldenes, and Hebukazi Mtati in front of me. A full panel of women in front of me. I feel like a bit in the firing line here, but that's okay. And I want to talk to you guys about what it is that people can do in this day and age, given the fact that it sometimes may be quite difficult, or to get access to services, or what are things that people can do in the meantime to relieve stress and maybe easy things that people can do. What are the things that maybe you do in your own lives that help you? Anyone can go.
Okay, great. I'll start. I think this is something that's very dear to my heart. I always say I practice what I preach. I think the coping mechanism that is really, and it's sometimes a cliche as well, but I tried it with my own life, is definitely the fitness. Not fitness like I want to have a six-pack by the end of Friday, but fitness in the matter that we really have that holistic approach, because it's mind, body, and soul. I remember 3 years ago, I was like, I'm rather just going to sit on the couch and I'm just going to eat some chippies and I'm going to feel I'm fine. I'm really fine. And I remember my son asked me, Mom, can you just quickly run up the stairs? And I ran up that stairs and I couldn't catch my breath. And I was so disappointed in myself. And I started this journey about really incorporating movement. I call it fitness. Let's call it movement. Starting to be more active, really. So that coping mechanism in the line of work that we do, I think for me, if I can do one step, I can help one client. If I can do one burpee, I can be more patient with my son. If I can do certain things in my life, and now I'm to a stage that it's part of my routine. Fitness or movement is part of my routine, and I really try and help my students and my clients as well, that giving this a holistic approach, this coping mechanism is definitely don't have to be something that you see up to. I really want to go, don't want to gym. You don't have to gym. You can have a friend, have that partnership, go for a walk, or I think movement for me really actually had this more psychoeducation from what my body can do, my mind can do as well. And I think that connection that I made, it was, and I have my friends actually saying that, I know I can't phone you between 5 and 6, you're going to be in the gym. I'm like, no, I'm in my happy place. So my coping mechanisms, I think what I really want to encourage people is really, really try and find that holistic approach and movement for me on fitness and doing that, pushing your boundaries, because we are made so wonderfully. Our brain and our mind is it's so amazing, and we tap into it so little by time because we have a rat race, or we're moms, we're busy, or dads, even dads, and then
Even
you don't
dads, yes.
even dads are busy, and then we don't have time for ourselves. So self-care is definitely a thing that Geraldine told us very well in our department. We always say, Geraldine asks, did you do some self-care today? I'm like, yes, thank you, Geraldine, I did. So she really checks in with our mental health as well. But definitely that's one coping mechanism that I really, really like I said, I did it with myself. It's not a thing that I really believe in it. And I think a lot of people on social media, the body coach, a lot of people is actually doing this and saying mental health and movement has a big effect in endorphins and so forth and so on.
True, yes. And I think it's very important. I think in the first episode of the critical dialogues, we spoke a bit about that outlet. Let's call it an outlet for some of the issues that you may be experiencing, and how I think there was a phrase that and I'm going to repeat it again, is if
yeah, I watched it. You quoted Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, yes, that was the quote. Train the body and the mind will follow. Train the body and the mind will follow. Yes, and I think everyone should have that up on their wall somewhere, or on their fridge somewhere, and just as a reminder that once you start moving and feeling your what your body can do, it really is an empowering thing. And I think also we spoke about the fact that Cape Town in particular is a very beautiful city. It's summer now. There's lots of outdoor things you can do. You don't have to do it. You can get out in nature, not be confined to closed spaces, away from your computers, away from all the Zoom and the Teams meetings that keep us stuck on our devices. And just get out there and move. And these are also ways that we can avoid or avert us getting to the moment of crisis, I guess. It allows us to see the world with a different set of eyes. One of the things that I remember from a few years ago is when even the fact of how people meet can be changed, can be transformed. I remember this. I met this guy, and he said to me, "No, I don't do meetings in the office. I don't do meetings, sit down meetings." I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He says, "No, let's go and walk on Table Mountain. Let's go. We'll walk, take a little way up the path, and that's going to be our meeting." And it was just an amazing thing. We chatted, and that was our meeting. And so there are different ways. We don't have to do things the same way as always, as we've always done. We can adapt, we can change, and find better ways, I guess, to deal with some of these issues. So earlier on, we spoke to a young lady who is going to join us a bit later, Skylar Kalamdin. I'm gonna have her in the studio again because she's an absolute talent, young talent in Cape Town. She's part of the Ian Group Teen Idols finalist contest that's happening out in Athlone. She's at school, and she mentioned that she experienced bullying at school, teased at school for certain reasons, and had to consider what does one do in a situation like this, or why. I mean, I've always wondered why. I mean, I grew up in a time when bullying was just what happened. You didn't even think about it. It was, you got bullied, or you either the bully or you bullied someone else, and teased, or So bullying as a factor is really come to the fore. Also, I guess in recent years, the people. Sometimes the young people being driven to the point of suicide, I guess, because of bullying, and also in the social media world where online bullying is also a thing, and kids at school can often gang up on each other, on other kids without actually being present. This is what happens. Are our schools equipped enough to deal with this phenomenon? Are there two? I mean, what does a school do when there's a bullying at school?
Okay, I'll go. So I, again, Geraldine, place, we B-Psych coordinators, and we're on our B-Psych equivalent. We place our students in a lot of schools. And what's so interesting about the bully, some of the schools has a no bully policy. So at the moment, what they really, I think it's such a great, like you said, in the earlier stages when you're bullied, they had this thing, it makes them stronger. It makes them stronger. The schools, I must say, what we work and our students are placed at the moment, I think they are very well informed. They have a bully policy. They social working and counselor walk of the whole week. They had a walk for anti-bullying. So creating awareness, I think it's really good at the moment. Our students is doing this very well. And again, the schools are very on board. We work in the northern suburbs. I work in the northern suburbs. And although it still happens every day, definitely, I think at the moment, the awareness, you just said, it's because you will see that the suicide rate for people that's bullying, keep it quiet, has also been, it's also making its appearance as well. And I think that's really shook our community as well. So,
just explain that again. You're saying that prevalence of bullying, greater prevalence of bullying, and so more people considering suicide, younger people. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I had a case. So we had a case in our community that, again, like Geraldine said, if you can only tell someone, and he didn't tell someone, and it ended up very, very sad. So I think the schools that I work with is very well educating the parents. We have so I think again, my colleagues can help me. That's really important is people, and you being a parent and myself being a parent, a mom. Someone is bullying me. Okay, what's he doing? I'll be there tomorrow at school. You're very defensive at the moment. I protect you like a lion. You want to protect your cubs. And I think when you go to school and we find out the stories at the moment, there's definitely the stigma about how can we help and support. We want to really protect. And I think the school at the moment, they are looking both sides. They're really looking at the person that's been bullied, what's happening, the circumstances. So again, I can only speak from my schools that I work with. They have a bully policy. That's a no bullying. So.
I mean, when I think about it now, I think that the kids who bully obviously are dealing with their own sort of issues, and the bullying is a symptom of what they're dealing with. You know, maybe it's a home situation where they feel powerless, or there's some kind of issue going on at home, and they then take out that thing on other kids.
Yeah.
Is that a case?
So it's not always the case, but most of the time, I would say I have seen that's the case. There might be domestic violence in the home. There might not be domestic violence in the home, but perhaps there had been when the child was quite small. Because remember, with kids, they develop social and emotional capabilities from when they're infants already. They can understand how mom is feeling already when they are a week old. So they're so in tune with their parents' emotions and their environment as well, and what's happening within that environment. So as they grow, they are learning from their environment. And who they become is also part of, their biological makeup as well as the environment. So those two, they kind of mix together, and the child becomes a bully, or the child does not become a bully, because I don't want to say all kids that come from environments like that become bullies. You'll find that it's a 50-50. You never know. But I think it's up to the parents to actually, provide that environment where they teach their children how to coping mechanisms, how to express themselves emotionally, verbal expression. Because when there's no verbal expression and words to use, like I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling frustrated, when they don't have that emotional language, then they resort to violent behavior. So you take my pencil case, so I'm going to beat you up and I'm going to start abusing you or, bullying you. So it's that. And I am working currently with the child who did not even understand emotional language because his parents never taught that to him. And I was actually happy that I'm working with a boy, because a lot of these kids that come through are the girls who have been either bullied or raped. But it makes me proud when moms bring their boys and say, this is the behavior I'm getting from this boy. And I hope all the moms that are listening right now, and they have issues and behavioral problems that they're struggling with their teenagers, boys, or even 10-year-olds, 8-year-olds, then bring them early to the therapy session. There's so much we can do. So this boy is learning how to express himself. Then he's using less cursing words. He's not saying, these words that they use that I can't even repeat. But now he's expressing himself and people listen to that. But I find that a lot of other boys, like teenage boys, they think it's a sign of weakness. So that's why we need an early kind of intervention.
I want to talk again, go back to the issue of parenting, because I think there is, as you said, our behaviors are expressions of how we've been socialized, how we've been brought up, our upbringing, and our sort of the experience that we get from our parents. And again, I grew up in a time where corporal punishment was the thing, I mean, not even just corporal punishment, but like if you stepped out of line, you would, you'd get bashed over the head with something, and so there's, I guess, in this time and place where that's not allowed, you're not supposed to do it. It's actually a crime to beat your child. Is it at that point now? You can go to jail. My daughter's accused me when I said I'll slap you. She's like, I'll call the police and you'll go to jail. But does it? Should we be learning better parenting? I mean, we can always learn better parenting skills, but do you think that there's a real lack of real good parenting skills, particularly, I guess, in the case of, kids learn their behaviors from us, I mean, I learned some things from even though I didn't like getting beaten up, but I guess I thought that was the way you deal with issues. If someone annoys you, you lash out, because that's what you learned. Is that changing at all, or are people still,
It's a difficult one, and like you said, times have changed, so the methods of discipline have kind of changed. I don't know if maybe Geraldine wants to add on that. But it's not that parents are not parenting their children, but they have to set certain boundaries, and these boundaries need to be communicated with the child. So there needs to be communication with the child that this is not the right way of doing things, and so back in the days, so I was also born back in the days, but back in the days, you couldn't really, say what you felt to your parents because you're talking back. But now it's allowed, but don't talk back, obviously, but, have a conversation. I think the parents nowadays are allowing their kids to have the conversation with them. But I would not say that they are bad parents, but the family structures have changed. The single parent, there's more moms who are just single parents and some kids living with their grannies. And whereas back in the day, we didn't find a whole lot of that. I might be wrong, but along those lines.
Geraldine, do you have something?
So no one actually gives you a manual to parent, right? We study psychology, we get a degree, and someone tells us how to do these things. Parents are learning and are just doing the best sometimes. Sometimes, like you said, it's what they were taught is the only thing they know. Parents also come with their own baggage, and as much as they say, I don't want to be like my mother or my father, often those kind of things carry on to the next generation. So there's lots of parenting skills and workshops and training, but a lot of parents also feel like they're just surviving. They come from work, they barely have time to see their children. So adding on this extra thing about doing a parenting course, so it's really about spending time with your child, getting to know, and not just putting your child necessarily in front of a television to raise your child. And often we do that as parents because it's difficult. We don't have a lot of time. But it takes time to just spend with your child and to regularly be in touch with the child, find out what your child's strengths are, areas for development. What is the things that make them happy? So it's small things that you can do with your child, and spending some quality time when you have the time. I know everybody doesn't have the time every day, but at least make a point of spending time with each of your children if you have more than one, and not just often the one who gives us the most grief is the one that we spend the most time with, and the other one sometimes gets a bit neglected. But spend time with all your children and just get to know them and set boundaries, like she said as well. Setting boundaries make children feel safe. Parents sometimes feel like their child's best friend, and so they don't want to set the boundaries, and it's really important. Children don't feel safe when they don't have boundaries, so setting boundaries is actually quite an important part of parenting.
I mean, as a parent, my daughter's 12 years old now, and so she's in a sort of still a child, but not anymore a child, and she wants to do certain things, but I think no, I don't think so. And so as that phase, I guess it's going to go on for a couple of years longer. And I guess also as a young woman in the world, dealing with issues of social media and expectations, and other friends and all of those things, appearance issues, I would guess, and so. What as a parent of a tween, let's call it, would advice would you give to me? Like, what do I need to, what can I do to boost her self-confidence? I mean, she's an amazing young woman, but often I find that she, maybe she's not that as confident as she could be. How do I deal with that?
I think that you also need to understand the world that she's in and her experiences and all the different kinds of pressures that she's faced. Often we say, don't care about what other people say, just be the best you that you can be. But for a teenager, the friendship circle is kind of the most important group at that stage. So really understanding what are the pressures that they're facing, why is it so important for her to do a particular thing, and getting understanding what's like around what the meaning is for that child. Like we're always complaining with the kids, get off your phones, get off tech. In some ways that's their life, and we also need to know what about tech makes them want to be there all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean,
adults too.
I don't know. No, I mean, no.
You can phone us, Ryan. You can phone us.
Fantastic. That's good to know. I'm looking forward to the next few years. But yeah, but it's an amazing experience to see someone go through these different phases. I guess and learning also to deal with it in a different way than maybe it was dealt with you. Because I mean, when I was a kid and I was teased, my mother was like, "Sticks and stones don't break your bones. Names will never hurt you." And then that's what you said to the bully or the guys who were teasing you, and that kind of gave you a sense of, well, this is not going to affect me in the way that you think it is. Yes, listeners at home, interesting times we're living in, mental health awareness, issues of climate change that we've also spoken about over the past weeks, and the state of higher learning in South Africa. After the show, when my show ends, you're going to be listening to the CEO of the Cornerstone Institute, Noel Daniels. In his slot, it's an hour long. It's called Community Champions, and Noel will speak to a community champion, someone that we think is doing amazing things, and we'll get to know their struggles, their achievements, their victories, and what makes them tick. And please stay tuned after the Critical Dialogues, because you will always be surprised by who you meet and all the things that they've done. That is the Community Champions at 9 o'clock, from 9 to 10 this evening. Community Champions is a new show on Bush Radio every Thursday at 9 p.m. Cornerstone Institute CEO Noel Daniels is the host and chats with various community champions about their life, their work, their struggles, and the music that inspires them to keep fighting for a better world. Conversational and laced with humor, the show is part of a new collaboration between Bush Radio and Cornerstone Institute, a private institute of higher learning in Cape Town, offering a range of on-campus and online programs in community development, psychology, business, and much more. If you're looking for inspiration on how to change the world, tune in to Community Champions on Bush Radio 89.5 FM with Cornerstone CEO Noel Daniels every Thursday at 9 p.m. So I hope you stay after the show and stay for the community champions. You will be pleasantly surprised. Earlier on the show, we had Skylar Kamaldin, who is an 18-year-old student. She's going to join us in a short while again. Very talented young lady, 18 years old, started writing her matric exams this week and is going places, certainly, if you listen to the voice that she has and how she's able to communicate, I guess, emotion in the song, because singing is one thing, but it's your ability to really move people with your voice and your emotional depth. And so I think one of the things that struck me about her song and the way she sounds is the fact that she's got some kind of emotional depth that is beyond her years. I think that's what I hear. And so you can judge for yourself. I'm going to play a song that she's produced. It's called I Don't Mind. Remember that name, Skylar Kamaldin from Athlone.
I've cried. They don't understand me. No matter how hard I try, but I keep on fighting for who I am, hoping they'll see me for what I stand. I know the truth will set me free from this misery. I don't mind being alone, but I'm caught up in my thoughts and I just can't let go. It's a dark place, I'm losing control, and I'm hoping I can find a way to ease my soul. I'll follow your light on the darkest days. If I fall off the track, Lord, I know you will lead the way. Through all the heartache, you will wipe away my falling tears. My faith is stronger than my fears, but I keep on fighting for who I am, hoping they'll see me for what I stand. I know the truth will set me free. I'm free from this misery. I don't mind being alone, but I'm caught up in my thoughts and I just can't let go. It's a dark place, I'm losing control, and I'm hoping I can find a way to ease my soul.
I Don't Mind by Skylar Kamaldin. She's only 18 years old and she's sitting right in front of me. It's her first, is it your first radio interview?
Yes.
You're less nervous than before?
Not really.
Fantastic. So, 18 years old, been singing since she was about 10, performing, I guess, for audiences back then already.
Yes, competitions also.
Okay. So this is not your first competition.
No.
You've been through you've been through the pressures of what that is and all of that before.
Yes.
What is the context in which you sing? You sound like you could be a church singer in the choir, or no?
I've never made it into a choir, even though I've tried out like many times. But I'm the solo vocalist for my school's band.
Okay.
So majority of the competitions I took place in was with my school.
Okay. And tell me, what does in the context of your family? You said that your father is your producer.
Yes.
Yeah. And what has that been? They've always supported your talent? They've
always supported me since young, since before I even started music. Because I used to dance before I started singing.
Okay. And what are the future plans for you, Skylar?
At the moment, I applied for talent agencies and at different academies for music. So I'm hoping to get into one of them.
Fantastic. How many songs have you written so far?
I haven't I don't actually know, to be honest. I have like a book of just different pieces that I wrote.
Yeah. And if people want to find your music, how would they find it? If they wanted to support you, if they wanted to be a fan, where would they find you?
I recently started a SoundCloud.
Okay.
So I started a SoundCloud and I'm on Instagram.
Okay. And on Instagram, I think I went to your Instagram profile. You've got 2 profiles, right? You have one for music and one for...
Well, we recently removed the music account, so we're just going to use the main account to push everything so that it's easier to find, easier to track and things like that.
Okay. So that's the one with more followers.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. As a young person in this sort of modern world, social media, how do you find social media as a kind of a thing among your friends or at school? Or is it?
I made a big deal out of social media because at school I wouldn't talk to people much and I didn't have much friends. So on social media would be my friends until I got cyberbullied and things like that. So it's just, you have to be careful on social media of what you post because it cannot be removed. So. Do you think that people need more education, especially kids need more education around the dangers of social media or the risks associated with it? Yes, because not many people, they don't really know what's going on and who is watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, Skylar Kamaldin, who is going places. I'm going to say that again because I think, would you agree with me?
Yeah. I have Goosey still. I think she's such a wow. I am amazed. Such a beautiful young woman with a beautiful voice, and I'm so proud of her. She's sitting here, and you speak. Yeah, you're actually the voice for a lot of young girls that is going through the same thing, Skylar. And I think I'm so proud of you that you standing up and you're speaking out. And thank you very much for doing this. I still have goosies. It's going to go away now. Your voice, I think, yes, thank you so much for just getting it out there that it's okay to talk and it's okay to be imperfect, because if you're imperfect, we find your perfect side, like in your song said. I think, still amazed.
I'm gonna ask you to do a strange thing now, because I think that people you may not believe that is the voice of an 18-year-old girl from Cape Town. I know there's lots of talent in Cape Town, but I think Skylar's is an exceptional talent. So I'm going to ask her again, just so that you know it's not all the things that people do in the studio, the levels and all of that kind of thing, and echoes and all that kind of. Just maybe to give us a taste of her voice, a cappella, just in the studio like that, raw, so you know that this is no accident. It's not technology. Can you do something again? Okay.
You don't know, babe, when you hold me, kiss me slowly, it's the sweetest thing, and it don't change. If I had it my way, you would know that you are. You're the coffee that I need in the morning. You're my sunshine in the rain when it's pouring. Won't you give it all to me? Give it all.
Wow. So if you're listening at home and you want to support someone who is super talented, a young person, please follow Skylar Kamaldin. Go and support her. I don't know about the other contestants, what level they're at, but I just know her. So if you've got a favorite talent in that contest, I'm sure you're biased in some way, but please, if you're not even aware of the contest and you want to support someone in their journey, please follow Skylar Kamaldin. And as I said, remember that name, because it's going to go places. Fantastic. I think that's it. I'm trying to get a song. I actually want to play your song Imperfect again, but I may mess it up. Let's see if it's going to work at all. There we go. Imperfect by Skylar Kamaldin. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
reflections I recall, they don't faze me anymore. Paying my heart up off the floor, and I'm stronger than before. My only mission is to make it. Now I know how to make it on my own. So I don't need nobody. I don't need nobody. You knock me down, but I will get up again. Through all the doubts, I'm still on top of it. You down my name, I don't give a damn. Even if I may be imperfect, I'm a perfect me. They call me names, mocking me. It all comes down to jealousy. I don't see the need to explain myself. I'ma let my story do the talking. So I don't need nobody. I don't need nobody. You knock me down, but I will get up again. Through all the doubts, I'm still on top of it. You down my name, I don't give a damn. Even if I may be imperfect, I'm a perfect me. I don't need nobody to stand alone. I'll do it all on my own. You knock me down, but I will get up again. Through all the doubts, I'm still on top of it. You down my name, I don't give a damn. Even if I may be imperfect, I'm a perfect me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Skylar Kalamdin, Kalamdin, just to be accurate. If you got it the other way around, it's Kalamdin. So follow her. She's part of the Eon Group talent show that's happening, Teen Idols, happening at the Eon Group Joseph Stone in Athlone, which is quite a thing that's happening out there. Their final performance is on the 18th of December, I believe. And in the meantime, you can follow her, Skylar Kalamdin, on social media, Instagram and SoundCloud, I believe. Yeah, so we're talking all things mental health on this almost at the end of October, which has been Mental Health Awareness Month in South Africa and in other parts of the world, where we are encouraging people to, I guess, be more open and be more comfortable, I guess, speaking about issues of mental health in their own lives and in the lives of others. There's the thing of, I guess, the shame. I think part of the shame around mental health is the fact that it makes you behave in certain ways that people may not understand. And I think when you don't understand how people, if you can't understand someone's behavior, it's quite scary sometimes, I guess. How does one when it comes to people going through issues, what would be the thing that you would do if you were someone close to them and you maybe suspected that they were having issues? Is it appropriate for you to approach them and say, I think maybe you need help, or do you want to talk to me, or how would you approach it as someone who's maybe not having that experience?
As a clinician or as a family member?
As a family member.
I think it's always good to just talk about it. speak to the person, ask them, or just mention that this is what I've noticed about you, or these are the changes that I've noticed. Can you let me know what's going on? Do you need help? And from there, you will actually have some sense of what is going on with the person and whether they need help or not. And it's always good to have, resources which you can always get at any local clinic. There's also, publications on the internet, but only reputable publications, where you can search for symptoms. You can search what could be going on. It's just your own, your own psychoeducation, but don't self-diagnose or don't diagnose the person, but trying to get a sense of what is happening with them. I think that already helps, and you know where to go from there, and then just seek the help.
A few years back, I developed let's say a passing interest in psychology, and I read through some books a while back. It didn't grab me the way it's grabbed you guys, obviously, but there's this notion, I think, that a lot of people have. I think that also maybe is part of the stigma that exists, that there's a certain sort of normal kind of psychological state where that if you a normal person, not so there's either you're normal or you're crazy. You understand? And but I think that what lots of people don't understand is that actually we are all a range of something in between. Everyone's a bit off center in some way, shape, or form. We always have our quirks, and then obviously people who go off on in certain crisis moments, or have something like which is quite like schizophrenia, which is a really serious problem. And when I read that, I kind of made me understand that maybe I'm a little bit crazy. Most of my friends are a little bit crazy, and we've got issues, but it's not a bad thing. We all are on a range of a kind of a spectrum, I would guess. Is that true, Geraldine? Would you say that?
I think at different times we have different experiences. We don't really like to use the word crazy because that sometimes also creates stigma. So we speak about mental health difficulties or psychological difficulties because of the way it has been stigmatized, the way that mental health was stigmatized. So at different times you could have an off day, an on day, or a crisis could make you react or respond in a way that you would not normally.
No, true. I mean, I've been in moments where if I look back now, I was like, maybe I should have, that was really out of the ordinary for me. And if anyone had seen me, I would probably have been I would have been taken in to have myself being dealt with, because we life, it throws things at us, whether it's losing your job, whether it's a relationship that breaks up, or some kind of pressure that you're under. And so it's absolutely normal if you're not, I guess it's normal to react in ways the ways that you, I guess, have learned behavior, which may be learned from some trauma that your parents have passed on to you. I mean, I grew up in a home which was riven with domestic abuse. My parents were always fighting, and one of the ways that I coped with that, I guess, was to isolate myself and read a lot of books. Is one of the things I did. And my parents were they knew what they knew. They'd learned their behaviors from their parents, and so for them that was normal to throw things at each other or argue all the time. So, but my response was to let's say isolate myself with books, and that had its own kind of impacts. I became very well read. I was the kind of know-it-all, general knowledge nerd at school because I read so much, and this was my reaction. When I got to my teens, I started to write, and I wanted to talk to you a bit about that, Advocacy, about writing as a tool, a coping tool, I would guess, for especially teens who are going through issues. Is that something that you encourage?
Definitely, it's very important, especially so only if it is safe to do so. Because there are kids who might not be in a more like a protective environment where they can keep their diaries safe. So I don't encourage it if it's going to land in the wrong hands and they end up being bullied because of what they've written. But I was just thinking about how Skylar started writing because of her own issues and how that turned into, music and her singing her own lyrics, writing her own lyrics, how it translated to something so beautiful. So when I deal with teenagers at times and, they talk about some of the issues that they have, I always encourage them to write down their feelings, what they're going through on that day. And in those diaries, where there's always one specific thought about yourself that pops up, and we deal with that issue. Because you might find that the theme of the journal is that I'm useless, I'm hopeless, I will never make it in life, I will always be abused. So then those things so it helps us in the therapeutic process as well, because as clinicians we pick up on those details, and then we start to just help the patient through that pain. And you'll see that as they start writing again after you've helped them through all of those schemas, if I can call it that, the narrative starts to change. The things that they start to write about, it's more hopeful, less than I will never be anything. So it's always good to write. And now they can actually, I'm sure Skylar goes back to her diary and she looks where she started and the theme of what it was about and how it's progressed, which I think is amazing. It's growth, it's insight. And with more insight, you make better judgments about yourself, about the world, about other people. So it's an amazing tool.
Fantastic.
So we also speak about depression being anger turned inward. And so when you are actually writing and expressing yourself, it's a way of getting that pent-up emotions and that painful experiences out of you and out onto the paper so that it doesn't hold you back as much as it may have. So expressing it through journaling, writing songs, poetry, that's all ways of helping you to deal with the pain and acknowledge that there's something that's happened and it doesn't have as much power over you when you're actually able to express it.
I guess excuse me, one of the songs that, a lot of songs, a lot of art is created out of pain and trauma as a response to it, I think the most, someone who's really built a career out of some of the pain that she's gone through is Adele, who has just come out with the hit of the summer. What's the name of it? What's it called? Easy on Me.
Yes.
Easy.
You've got it.
Easy on Me, and South Africa has obviously taken it and turned it into a dance song with a remix. But the song itself is often her songs really are a response to some kind of heartbreak. Generally, it's some kind of issue. She's always on the phone and can't get through to someone years later, and so that seems to be the lane that she's chosen. Fantastic. I want to talk about what does one do if this is a career path that you want to pursue? Odette.
Definitely sign up at Cornerstone, please. That's the first thing you do. I think another thing that we definitely promote at Cornerstone as well, or in this psychology field, when you're a little girl, you want to get married in a white dress, and if it doesn't happen, your whole completely dream fall apart. And I think with psychology, it's the same thing. After matric, I'm going to become a psychologist. If I'm finished in CLA, I'm going to become a psychologist. What happens then? Masters is very difficult because and Geraldine and myself, we can tell you it's difficult to get into masters. And then, okay, I'm just going to do something else. So there's different routes, and I think Cornerstone promoted with our B-Psych equivalent program, becoming the registered counselor. We have our students is amazing, the path that they start, the amazing work that they do. And even though, because I can also tell Geraldine, the waiting list sometimes is maybe 2 to 3 weeks or 3 months even. With a registered counsellor, the first part of or the first responder can step in. So we have that first part of becoming a registered counsellor. We registered the HBCSA, and then applying for your master's degree, and definitely doing your doctors if you want to. It's just like you said, Ryan, I love reading, so that's why I did my doctors. But I think that's the path. Really, just the psychology has so many lanes, and Geraldine can definitely vouch for that as well. But I think what we promote is, if you don't get into masters, you think,
Is
okay,
it your dream to go to varsity? Cornerstone Institute can help you. Accredited high.
Yes, I think that's really important to know. There's different lanes, and still the main objective is to support and help people. Becoming a mental health practitioner, is that your main objective? Is you will help and support people either via a registered counsellor, a counselling counsellor, education, and a clinical psychologist.
You can also become a research psychologist, because sometimes there's just too little information on different disorders and what kinds of treatments work. So research psychology is a very important part of psychology as well, often neglected, but it makes such a huge difference when we have good research, good data on what actually works, what are the different experiences and situations or disorders that people are struggling with predominantly, and just having good data and information.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Geraldine. I'm going to ask, we're almost at the end of the show. It may not seem that way, but we've got another show coming up in 7 minutes. And so they have to come into the studio. And so we have to get out quite soon. Just quickly to wrap up, final words from you in like 30 seconds to listeners, something that they can take away and use in their own lives. If you can just keep it short.
Okay.
Let's come closer.
I think for me, because it's Mental Health Month, I want to just bring the message across that mental health really matters. It's not just about your physical health, but your mental health is just as important. Without mental health, you won't be able to enjoy your physical health. So really take the time to self-care. Find little things that you can do, little hobbies, things that you enjoy doing. Take note of the small things in life, like your breathing. If you're struggling with anxiety, take deep breaths. Be aware of what's going on in your body. Deep breath slows your heart rate down. It has all kinds of benefits for you. So if you can do nothing else, breathe deeply and just be aware of your surroundings.
Hey, Bukazi?
So my last words is that just be you. Be the best version of who you are or who you want to be. And don't let anyone dictate to who you should be and who you should not be. As long as you are happy with yourself, then that's okay. You don't have to be anything that anyone wants you to be. Just be happy with who you are.
Thank you. Dr. Geldenes?
I think my last words would be, there isn't a thing such as a big trauma and a small trauma. Your trauma is just so important. As you think like, this is not something I want to talk about. Speak out. Be your own voice. Whatever you think it's too big enough or too small enough, yours is yours. You're your own, and in your world, your trauma is big enough for you. So I think the really thing is speak out, because your world is also important and you are important.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the 4th episode of Cornerstone Critical Dialogues, where we were looking at mental health awareness in South Africa at the end of Mental Health Awareness Month. In the studio with me, Hebokazi Mtati, who is works with communities in Khayelitsha and all over the Western Cape, dealing with people face to face with some of the issues that they're facing. Geraldine Franciscus, the head of psychology at Cornerstone Institute, where you can go and study, and Geraldine will be your rock and your guide over there. And Dr. Odette Geldenes, psychology lecturer at Cornerstone Institute. So you'll also encounter these people if you choose to study at Cornerstone Institute, where you can learn to change the world through, among others, psychology.
Any chance to Rise the face, tells about the people going under.
Unlearning proposes that new ways of learning can only be acquired when individuals unlearn those thoughts, those emotions, and those behaviors that prevent us from fully flourishing in the world.
2 weeks into this course, my heart already knew that my entire viewpoint on humanity was going to change.
During the years that I've worked with Taryn, she has assisted me in seeing the potential as an individual, and the course has changed my life for the better. I am the person that I am today because of the course that I enrolled for.
I've been lecturing the content for 7 years, and every year I am in awe of students who share how the content has transformed them both academically and personally. I believe that the world right now is in desperate need of an education that equips individuals with both academic and personal development skills.
Before this course happened, I used to hate people from the bottom of my soul. But after this course, for the first time in my life, I can say that I no longer hate people. I can finally say that I no longer see people for their circumstances, but rather for who they are as people and who they can become.
The things that I learned in my early childhood about who I was not and who I was supposed to be. However, the course showed me the true identity of myself. It showed me that it was okay to be vulnerable. It showed me that it was okay to heal. And throughout the course, I have grown tremendously.
And the unlearning course does that. I realized that the content was so powerfully transformative that it would be irresponsible, that it would be selfish for me not to share it with the world. Unlearning is really a course that I've been lecturing for 7 years, but I've made it bigger, I've made it better, and I'm excited to incorporate the performing arts. I do not believe that unlearning needs to be clinical and boring. We can also make unlearning entertaining and fun.
To anyone that would want to enroll in this course, it will not only benefit you academically, but also individually. It will assist you in presenting yourself as the true individual that you are, but it will also assist you in healing and journeying the life process.
This course was the missing puzzle piece that I needed in my journey of self-transformation and self-discovery. And most of all, this course taught me how to unlearn this toxic behavior and how to choose happiness and positivity in the present and to stop worrying about tomorrow.
The gift of this course is that it is universally applicable to any personal and professional context. Cornerstone, learn to change the world.
In this time of great uncertainty, there's one thing you can be certain of: your education. Our wide range of online programs let you upskill yourself and earn a leading-edge qualification from the comfort of your own home. We've been educating Africa for 50 years, so we know how to adapt to our forever-changing landscape. Learn to change the world and take control today. Speak to one of our student advisors. Visit cornerstone.ac.za to enroll now.